In case you never knew, which you don't because I've never said it before, I'm actually a really big tech nerd. I'm in school right now for information technology, and I used to be in school for computer science. So whenever something new fancy happens in the computer world, I'm typically reading and knowing about it. Or at least I try to. And it's been pretty hard to ignore all the talk going on about the AI controversies, about the robots are taking our jobs, and all this stuff. And while I do have my own opinions about that, that's not what we're doing here today. Today I'm giving into my tech side and using AI as a friend to make some music. Probably the most well-known of these AI products is going to be ChatGPT. ChatGPT is very expansive in the things that it can do, but I was curious to see, can it make music? After all, people are using AI to borrow the voices of more famous established artists. So I want to see if ChatGPT would be able to facilitate the creation of a brand new song. Now it has a fully text-based UI, so it's not exactly what it was made for, but I figured it was worth a shot anyway. So let's hop on the computer and let's make a song with a robot. So before we start doing the actual song stuff, we need to decide on a tempo. Now I could have just picked one myself randomly, but I decided it would be way more fun to ask ChatGPT to come up with the code for a random number generator so that we can come up with a tempo randomly. So let's go ahead and ask, can you write the code for a random number generator in C? That's actually really neat. It gave us the code to print out 10 randomly generated numbers, but we only need one for a tempo, so let me alter this a little bit. So I have the code that it gave me here just with a couple alterations so our random number wouldn't be 8 million. So let's see what our tempo is going to be. We'll just run it. 169 beats per minute. That's a little fast, but it's fine. We can make it work. Let's do this. So I asked ChatGPT to come up with a drum beat in our tempo of 169 and a 4/4 time signature, and this is what it came up with. So let's put that in Logic just to see how it sounds. So this is interesting because if I'm reading the chart right, it says that it's on 1 and 3, but the description that it gives says that it's on eighth notes. So I'm going to take the description and just make the drum beat eighth notes because 1 and 3 for hi-hats is weird. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask ChatGPT to come up with some chords for us. Also, I switched my browser over to dark mode. That's why the UI is different. So I asked, can you come up with some smooth chords for our song? And I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to ask. So let's go ahead and see what it comes up with. All right, let's see. It looks like we have C major 7, A minor 7, F major 7, and then G7. Very normal, very safe 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. So it's a pretty basic chord progression. Those chords are not offensive at all, and it's really cool that it came up with like seventh chords and just not like normal triads. So because we have drums and block chords, there's not a lot going on here. So I think what I'm going to do is try to flesh out the production a little more to see if I can make it a little more interesting. So I've been talking back and forth with our robot friend, and we've come up with some really interesting things. Also, I got a haircut, which is why I look a little cleaner than I did in the beginning of the video. So we were already given the drum beat and the chords, and I decided to flesh out the instrumental just a little bit more. So then I asked ChatGPT for a bass line to complement these chords, and what it gave me was basically just the root notes, and I want to see if it can come up with something a little more robust than that. So then I asked if it could make something else with the same chords, and it gave me the root notes again, but this time with a passing tone, and I thought it can do better than that. So I asked it to make it even more complicated, to which it gave me this bass line here. Which is really just a walking bass line based on these chords, but I still think it sounds pretty good. Now after that, I asked ChatGPT if it can come up with a melody in 4/4 for these chords, and it just gave me the chord tones again. So then I obviously asked if it can make something more complex, and then it gave me this nonsense. Now this is one of the limitations of doing this kind of thing with a text-based UI, is that it really can't tell you what these notes are. It can just kind of spat notes out at you and put them in different colors, and I don't know if that's supposed to mean something or not. There's 8 of them in a bar, which makes me believe that these are just supposed to be eighth notes, but even this sounds a little all over the place to me. So the next thing that I asked was for it to come up with something a little less complex than that, to which it came up with this, which I didn't play exactly, but I did use this for inspiration for what did end up going up in the track. So why don't we hear the whole song that was written with ChatGPT? Honestly, it sounds good, and the fact that it was made by an algorithm is just really incredible to me. I think the way I went about it by just asking for an idea and then embellishing those ideas with my own human creativity, that's probably the way they want you to go about using a tool like this, rather than just using it to come up with ideas. Because again, it's an algorithm, it cannot create, it can only synthesize. But nevertheless, I thought it was a really cool experiment. It's probably something that I'll do in the future to try to get different ideas. I think it'll just be a fun little thing to continue to experiment on, especially as the technology gets better. But as for right now, that's all for me for today. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. And I'll catch you later.